Hello everybody, Maven here, and it's not often I get to use the word broken on this channel. I've done hundreds of videos on this channel, and I've probably displayed the word broken on a title or thumbnail like 2 times, give or take. And I won't name any names, but there are a lot of YouTubers out there who will just call anything broken. And I mean, to each their own, no disrespect, but personally, I don't like to over-exaggerate or clickbait. So on these rare occasions I get to use the word broken, it's because I genuinely believe it's broken. And today, we got a hunter build that feels like cheating. This is one of the most broken hunter builds I've ever used. And broken hunter stuff that comes to mind are things like Assassin's Cowl on Arc, or anything that uses Lucky Pants. Today's build is up there with those, seriously. So this is going to be a Gyrfalcon's Hauberk build, and no matter what you do with the Gyrfalcon's Hauberk, it's always going to be solid. There's no doubt about that. And typically when people try to break the Gyrfalcon's Hauberk, they pair it along with something like the Wave Splitter, which is a very solid choice. But today, we're going to be pairing it along with the Buried Bloodline Exotic Sidearm from the Warlord's Ruined Dungeon. And this thing has absolutely incredible, mind-blowing synergy with the Gyrfalcon's Hauberk, and it just absolutely slaps. This little sidearm feels more like a heavy weapon than a special, and you'll even see in this video that we compare it against some heavy weapons, and it actually holds up and competes with a lot of heavy options. This thing hits hard. So without further ado, let's get to it, and as always, your interaction is the key to this video's success, so if you got a second to drop a like and a comment, it really means a lot. And let's break it down. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so I'm gonna say right now, if you got a low attention span and you just want to see gameplay, I don't blame you if you skip ahead, but I have a lot of stuff I gotta explain here about this combo and what makes this synergy so broken. Okay, so let's first take a look at the Buried Bloodline. As you know, when you get 4 kills with this weapon, doesn't matter how fast the kills were gained, you get Devour. We don't really care about that though, since we're gonna use our subclass to get Devour, but what we really care about here is the Catalyst. So when Devour is active, your shots with this gun will weaken. That alone makes his gun incredibly powerful. Now, because of this weaken, that brings us to our aspect here, Stylish Executioner. Defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target grants invisibility. Now, as you know, you can already chain that pretty much forever with the Gyrfalcon's Hauberk, because you emerge from invis, you get volatile rounds, you kill a volatile enemy, you go invis, and you just repeat that. But with any other weapon, you tend to lose it for a second or two every once in a while, and you have to reproc invis somehow and get it going again. But because the Buried Bloodline weakens on every hit while you have Devour, you never run out. It's genuinely infinite. So let me walk you through the chain of events that's going to happen here. So I'm sure 99.9% of you already know what Gyrfalcon's Hauberk does, but for the one person who doesn't, when you emerge from invisible, you get volatile rounds for a bit. And also when you use a finisher, you get a reserve overshield. You and your teammates get a reserve overshield. I'll show a little clip of that here. You get the buff on the left side of your screen. When you dodge, you're going to get an overshield. It's a nice little bit of survivability, a nice get out of jail free card that contributes to the survivability of this build. All right, so here's what's going to happen, Walta. You emerge from invis, you get those volatile rounds, right? The very first target you kill is going to be volatile, so you're going to proc Echo of Cessation, creating a Void Breach. You pick up this Void Breach, and that is procking Echo of Starvation to give you Devour, which is going to proc your Catalyst to start giving you weakening rounds. And then because all of your shots are weakening, that is then going to proc Echo of Harvest. Defeating a weakened target creates an Orb of Power and a Void Breach. Because everything's being weakened, we're making tons of orbs of power. They're just everywhere. And these orbs of power are excellent because that brings us to our mod setup here. We're gonna have Void Weapon Surge with a time dilation. In the background gameplay today, you're gonna see me with 2 times Void Weapon Surge, but at the last second, I did swap the other one to something else. But anyways, we're gonna have that constant 10% damage buff, pair that on top of our 15% weakening shots, and that is what's making our Buried Bloodline hit like a truck. With 2 times Surge in the weakening, we're doing about 35% more damage than just the base Buried Bloodline damage. I'll show you a little clip of our base damage here against Carl. We're doing about 11k per bolt, and then once we have our Catalyst online with our surges, we get that first shot weakening, and then our subsequent shots do 15k per bolt. So it is about a 34.5% increase. And another reason that the constant orbs we're making from Echo of Harvest and also Void Siphon are so excellent is because we are running the Infinite Special setup. I featured this setup in a lot of my builds before. So basically you put a copy of Charged up on your chest so you can hold 4 stacks of armor charge, and then you got stacks on stacks, make it easier to get up to 4 stacks of armor charge. Whenever you get an armor charge, you get 2 instead. And then we have a copy of Special Ammo Finisher. When we perform a finisher, we consume 3 stacks of armor charge and make a special brick for the entire team. But because we have an extra stack from Charged Up, we're going to be able to keep up our Void Surge at all times as well and not just lose it. And we also have Elemental Charge. Whenever we pick up a Void Breach, it gives us a chance to get Armor Charge. And because of all of the Void Breaches we're making from both Echo of Cessation and Echo of Harvest, because every target is going to be weakened and volatile, we make tons of breaches, tons of orbs, tons of armor charge, and we have infinite ammo for everyone. I'm telling you, this is one of the craziest synergies I've ever seen in Destiny 2. Between your exotic weapon, your exotic armor, and your subclass, everything chains together absolutely perfectly. And now let's talk damage, because the Buried Bloodline, I was speechless as it showed in the thumbnail. I was shocked at how much damage this was doing. It seriously feels like a heavy weapon. So first, let's just show the clip of the Buried Bloodline against Carl alone. We are able to take him out in one magazine with our Catalyst and our Surges, which from all the testing I've done against Carl over the years, I can tell you that's pretty absurd. So now we're going to start doing some side-by-side comparisons, starting off here with the Cold Comfort rocket launcher, and it appears that the Buried Bloodline is slightly ahead of it. And next up is a linear fusion rifle. I did miss a crit, but it felt like it would have still been the same amount of shots anyways, and it appears to be exactly a tie. And next is a Supremacy, the best DPS sniper in the game, and it does beat it out by a bit, but you also got to take into account that it utilized so much more of its ammo, like nearly half of its reserves, as opposed to the Buried Bloodline only using 1 of 6 mags. And finally, my favorite comparison of all, the Commemoration machine gun, and yes, we also did have Void Surge procced on our machine gun as well, and the Buried Bloodline barely beats it out. And that makes no sense whatsoever. It's a special weapon, that's a heavy machine gun, they both got surges, it's ridiculous. So if you think about it, your Buried Bloodline is basically a special machine gun that weakens everything on hit, which helps your fire team as well. It's crazy. So like I said in the intro, the Buried Bloodline easily holds up with heavy options while consuming a lot less ammo and weakening everything. And that, in my opinion, is pretty broken. And remember, because of our mod and subclass setup, we also have infinite ammo for it, something that you won't have for a heavy weapon. So because we can spam this all willy-nilly everywhere we want to, and also just have infinite healing and invis and overshields with the Gyrfalcon, that is how this build is broken in my opinion, and it just makes all kinds of content extremely easy. So what I did is I used this build in the Gilded Percept Lost Sector and the Amuna. I did it on Patrol and then Legend and then Master. And I'm telling you right now, I could not tell the difference between the three, because the Buried Bloodline just butters up those enemies and just shreds through them effortlessly, and it just totally feels like the same difficulty throughout all three of those. And I may even show some of that in the background gameplay as well. And the boss of this Lost Sector, Charles, he's actually the tankiest Lost Sector boss in the entire game, so we can get a good little trial of how this build performs against him. And just so you know, my heavy weapon of choice with this build is the Regnant Heavy Grenade Launcher with autoloading and explosive light, because it can take advantage of our Void Reserves and our Void Surge. You could also use the Retrofit Escapade in some situations, and the Royal Entry Rocket Launcher if you need to deal with overloads. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut to the boss portion of the Gilded Percept Lost Sector on Legend difficulty, where we shred Charles, and like I said, our heaviest choice is the Regnant Grenade Launcher. If you haven't got the memo yet, grenade launchers are the new meta, rocket launchers are old meta. They hit like a truck and we absolutely melt through him. I've done a lot of Charles comparisons on my channel before. We've done one where we shot him with 10 rockets and he didn't die. The fact that we melted him that quick with the GL and the tether is just crazy. But what I really want to emphasize is this ad clear. Like, you really wouldn't know unless you've done it yourself. Go to this Lost Sector, like even on Patrol, and just see how tanky these enemies are, especially the gladiators. And they soak up damage like a sponge, I'm telling you. But anyways, we are going to move on to Master difficulty now, and then we're going to do the exact same thing. So let's head on to Charles and see what happens. And you can clearly see it basically looks exactly the same. We absolutely shred that Master level tankiest Lost Sector boss in the game. Don't even care. And like I said, I want to emphasize the ads afterwards, because especially Master ads and like Shadow Legion Cabal, they have so much health, but we just butter them up and just shred through them like they're nothing, dude. Like, I'm telling you, There's no distinction between legend and master with this build. It just makes it seem easy no matter what you're doing. I'm telling you, do this exact same thing with any other weapon. I dare you. And you're gonna get slaughtered if you're up in the face of these guys just trying to kill them with anything else. But I don't know, the Buried Bloodline, it just feels like cheating. It seriously feels like cheating. I'm not exaggerating. And I even tried this build out in the Grandmaster Nightfall, and it seriously felt also like the same difficulty as Legend and Master. Like, we're still able to basically one-shot trash mobs, if not two-shot them. You know how Wish Ender is a broken endgame weapon because it'll just one-shot any trash mob and it's got anti-barrier? Well, we got anti-barrier sidearm this season, and this seriously feels like the void version of the Wish Ender. And I'll show another full playthrough of a solo Master Lost Sector here while I break down the rest of our mods that we didn't go over earlier. So I have one copy of Harmonic Reserves here because we're using a Void Heavy and Void Special, so why not? And then I have one more slot on my chest to put just whatever resist mod pertains to whatever the threat modifier is for the activity I'm doing. And I also got to emphasize Powerful Attraction here. We can dodge to scoop up the orbs around us, and remember, we're making lots of orbs off of Harvest and also Siphon. And we're dodging a lot because Void Breaches actually give you class ability energy, so there's that. And then there's also Bolstering Detonation and Focusing Strike on our gloves, so we can just spam dodge. Then we got a Harmonic Loader to make our Buried Bloodline feel a little bit smoother. And then I have 2 copies of Heavy Ammo Finder on my helmet, but you could run 1 copy of Dynamo if you want in place of one of these, or a Scout mod if you want to help out your teammates. But when you have 2 copies of Heavy Ammo Finder, it makes your Finder Brick more effective and drop more ammo than a typical Finder Brick. And the last fragment I didn't mention earlier is Echo of Obscurity to go invis on Finisher Final Blows. This is definitely something that you're going to want for something like Grandmaster Nightfalls. And for your primary weapon, it really doesn't matter what you use since you rarely ever use it. You're basically just spamming your Buried Bloodline. But I'm using the Buzzard Adept with Overflow and Kinetic Tremors because since you're picking up so many special bricks, you're always going to have Overflow procced. So having something with Overflow is nice here. And for the stat breakdown here, got double hundreds in Resilience and Discipline. Always stick with the minimum of 3 Intellect. I actually have 4, and then I have 8 in Mobility. And you really don't have to worry about recovery or strength. I actually have Marksman's Dodge here. I don't even have Gambler's Dodge. It's just I don't really care about smoke bombs with this build because we can already do all the weakening that we need with our Buried Bloodline, and also we're not even using Trapper's Ambush, so our smoke bombs really don't matter. And I actually wanted to go with 100 mobility and sacrifice a little bit of discipline, but I didn't have the armor to make that happen, so I just had to stick with 100 discipline. But I would say our dodge is more important than our nade here because we're not running undermining. Undermining is to make your grenades weaken, but again, you don't really need that because your Buried Bloodline does all the weakening. So if you can actually go with 100 mobility, that would be better because you can spam Powerful Attraction more, which is important. But the number 1 rule is just always make sure you have 100 resilience. So that about wraps up the build. I'm telling you, you need to try this one. I am not even exaggerating. This feels like easy mode. This is easily one of the strongest hunter builds that I've ever played. And I'm telling you that sincerely as someone who has played Destiny 2 nonstop for the past 4 years. So as always, the dim loadout link to this build will be down below in the description and also the pinned comment if you'd like to give it a try. And if you got any friends who are hunter mains, I'd appreciate if you share the video with them. I'm sure they'd find it useful. And if you enjoy the video, be sure to drop a like and a comment. Remember, your interaction means everything to the success of this video. It pleases the algorithm gods. The video will go nowhere without your help, so it really means a lot. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing. We're so close to hitting 40K, and we can get there tonight if y'all just subscribe. It would really mean a lot. And with that, I will catch you in the next video. See you later.